Hi, this is Mike from Optimized Physiotherapy. In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the squat. We're going to be using the squat as a way to look at screening mobility, as a way to develop mobility in the lower body, and as a way to develop strength. So I'm going to show you different variations, as well as ways to load it with weights that you can use at home or at the gym. So we're going to start on the ground, and we're going to be using the squat as a little bit of a screen and to see what our position is like. What I'm going to have you do is just flip yourself back into the squat. You want your feet at least a foot apart. We're looking to see how close you can get your heels to the ground and still be able to balance without falling back over. So here, I'm able to get to the ground, right? And I can actually take my hands away and balance here. If you can't quite get to the ground and your heels are off in the air, that's okay. You can just stay here, and our goal here would now to be just to kind of get used to being in this position. So we can start to load up one side a little bit more. For example, here I feel a nice stretch in my ankle and Achilles, and I can come over to the other side and do the same. The goal over time is to just spend some time here and get our heels closer and closer to the ground with less and less support, so that we can actually get used to just hanging out here. We can also work on opening up our hips here and using it as a hip stretch, right? So from this position, I can actually push side to side, push straight out, feel the groin opening up. I can just hang out here, let go. From there, a great way to actually progress this is to grab a weight. This is actually going to act as a counterbalance, so it'll allow me to get a little deeper and more comfortable in the squat. So I can hold this, I can push out, again for a stretch component, or just hang out. And I can also use it as a load to stretch into my ankles like I showed you before. So plenty we can do from this position, but it starts with just testing where you're at, where your heels are, and getting a bit more comfortable down here. All right, so now we're going to go over the squat as a movement. We broke down the position and just showed you a little way to test that, but now we're going to look at actually getting down and up out of that position. And this is what people think of as traditionally as the squat. So what we're going to look at is from a side angle and a front angle. We're going to start with the front angle. Now, a couple cues before we go. I want you to think about staying balanced over your entire foot when you do the squat. So at no point do we want to go back on your heels to the outside edge of the foot too much, to the inside edge of the foot too much. The whole point will be to stay nice and balanced throughout. I'm going to do one from the front angle first. Again, your width is really dependent on what's comfortable for you. We're going to start about shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider for today's purposes. So here we go. We're going to try to break into the squat, sitting into position, not losing balance, and seeing where we can get to, where it feels comfortable, and where we don't feel like we're falling back onto our heels at all. All right, I'm gonna come out of that. I'll try it one more time. Sitting into the squat, staying nice and balanced, checking balance at the bottom, and coming out. From a side angle, we're gonna look at it. Spine, what I'm gonna do is show you that if I stay balanced over my feet and go into the squat, my spine's gonna stay nice and straight for the most part. If I start to lose my balance on my heels at any point, we're going to see something like that happening. I'm going to go lighter on the toes here. So we don't want that happening when it's related to the squat as a movement. If you see here, I'm actually playing around with my balance in the bottom of the squat, so you can start to get used to what it feels like to be more active in the squat and then to be more kind of passive in the squat. And nothing wrong with being here if it's for the purpose of just hanging out and working on your mobility, right? I'm going to come back up and do a few more reps from this angle, staying balanced. This is the position that I want to drive out of. Do it a couple more times. And there we go. So one more thing is that if you're having trouble getting down into the squat, you can actually use things like heel props to actually make it a bit easier. And I'll just show you how that works. So these will give you a little bit more access to ankle mobility, and they'll change your center of balance a little bit. Often helps people get a little bit deeper in their squat. So what we can do here is just put it under the heels, same stance and everything. We can go into the squat again, and that helps me get a little bit deeper down into the squat and still be able to stay balanced. And I can come in and out of that position, hitting my depth and coming up from there. Now, a couple cues, again, beyond the foot balance. A lot of times I'll have to cue people to push their knees out a little bit to create space in their hips. Again, showing you from this angle. I'll often cue people to push the knees out a little bit, but not at the expense, again, of going on the outside edges of the feet. Just enough so you can sit nice and well into the squat without the knees coming in like that. Finally, the last part is loading the squat. So I showed you how to load the bottom position and work on mobility. Now we're going to work on loading the actual movement, going down and up from the movement. This is what people traditionally think of as a squat, right? And you see this in gyms. I'm just going to show you how to do a goblet squat, and that's just when you hold a dumbbell or you can hold a kettlebell in a similar manner like this. This allows you to get the weight out front of you, get a good hold on it. What we're going to do is just go down and up from that position that we worked on, and we're just going to hit a few reps. Now I'm going to show you from the side too. Finally, we can actually get these out and make use of that position there that we worked on in the previous part of the video. And this is going to allow us to potentially get a little bit deeper or help us out if we're having trouble getting into that position. Now you can go as heavy as you want, pretty much as heavy as you can hold with something like this, and it's a great way to start the loading process. Hope you enjoyed this video and hope you learned a thing or two. Stay tuned for the next tutorial.